Hey everybody, I'm Ebony. This is Ebony's Creativity. Thank you so much for joining me here on my channel. In today's video, I'm doing something that I don't get the chance to do that often, and that is rebuilding a piece of furniture from scratch instead of refinishing somebody else's piece that they have already built. I really hope you enjoy this video, that you learn something from it. If you do, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, thumbs up the video, and leave me a comment letting me know what you think about the project. Thank you so much for watching, and let's hop right on into this video. I saw this piece online and fell in love with the piece but not with the price, so I decided that since I'm always refinishing someone else's furniture that they've made, I want to try to build my own, and I want to do more of these type of projects. So I started to sketch it out to fit in my foyer area. It's going to be a double duty piece of furniture for me. It's going to serve as my dog cage as well as an entryway bench. I've been slowly making over areas in my house little by little. So I started with my foyer area, and if you have not seen my IKEA hack for my shoe storage cabinet, then you should definitely watch that video. I will link it in the description box below. One thing I will say is planning out projects for builds is a whole different monster than just refinishing something on the fly, so I'm glad I had this little sketch to go off of. I'm all about furniture being stylish and functional, so I really needed this to look good and to function as a usable dog cage. So while I could have easily bought one of the little metal cages that everybody else has, I wanted this piece to be large enough and comfortable enough for the dogs to sit down, stand up, walk around, stretch their legs, lay down, and both be comfortable. So that's why I had to make this really big, and the only place that a piece of furniture like that would fit is in my foyer. So that's why also, since it's going to be there and it's going to be large, it needs to do dual duty as a entryway bench as well as the cage. However, if you need a sideboard, a buffet, if you need something that sits lower to the ground or is a little bit higher up, all you have to do is adjust this just a little bit and you could use the same idea for your piece. Play around with the base, make the legs taller or shorter, and then you'll be able to adapt this to wherever you need it to be as well. So I started out by making 6 4-inch legs out of 2x2s. Now I'm going to start out by building the main structure, so I'm just cutting out my sides now. I do have a table saw. At the point when I was making these clips for this video, I was still afraid to use my table saw, so you'll see me doing this the hard way on the miter saw. But if you only have a miter saw, then now you will see how I cut pieces that are a little bit too long for my blade. Luckily, I caught Home Depot on a day where the saw was working, so I got them to cut the top and the bottom pieces, and all I had to worry about was cutting the 2 side pieces. So right now you see me doing one, and I've already done the other off camera. But essentially right now, the structure that I'm making is just a box, 2 sides, a top and a bottom. I never knew Home Depot had a 70% off scratch and dent section, and that's where this whole sheet of birch plywood came from. So now I've got all 4 of my pieces. Let's build a box. I started out by pre-drilling holes in each of the corners of the top piece. Then I took one of the side pieces and put some glue on the edge and secured it to the top piece with screws. Now that I'm looking back at this, I really wish I had mitered the edges, but you live and you learn. I'm still happy with how it turned out. If you have the benefit of having a second person help you, that will be really, really helpful and make your process a lot shorter. But me, I've got to try to hold it and screw it by myself. So it's taking me a little bit longer than it might take you. I did the exact same thing to attach the other side, and now I'm just completing my box by using some more glue and some more screws. Once you have splintered enough wood by trying to skip this step, you will learn, like I have learned the hard way, not to skip the step of pre-drilling before you insert your screws, so that's what I'm doing now. If you have a countersink bit, that would be really good to use. That way you can hide your screws easier. But me, I just use what I got, what I feel comfortable using, and what I know how to use. So I don't have a countersink bit, but if you have one, feel free to use it for this step. As for me, I'm just making sure that my screws go in beneath the surface so that I can fill it with wood putty to cover my screws. Alright, so here is my main structure. I've got my box built. Up next, I'm going to construct my base, and I'm just using glue screws and the same 2x2s that I used to make the legs. So I'm just essentially making a rectangle, 2 short sides and 2 long sides for my base. I'm also going to be pre-drilling these and then inserting screws as well. I don't know why. It's probably very irrational, but I'm terrified of the Craig jig for some reason. Pocket holes and pocket screws just look really hard to understand to me. It's probably really simple, and I'm gonna get my hands on one day so I could practice. That would have been way better in this application than what I'm doing, but this is what I'm doing. I don't think I mentioned this, but on the parts where I'm going plywood to plywood, I'm using 2-inch nail screws, and on the part where I'm going 2x2 to 2x2, I'm using 3.5-inch wood screws. Now that I've got my rectangle built, I'm going to attach the feet that I cut in the first clip. So I'm just going to be using more glue and more screws to attach these. And here's what my completed base looks like. I wanted to make sure it was level, so I put it down on the ground and it checked out well. So now I'm going in with more screws to attach the base to my plywood box. If you're wondering why I'm holding that scrap piece of wood inside, it's because since there is no support inside yet, it's a little bit flimsy when I try to bear down on it to get the screws in. So I'm just using that as kind of a temporary support, but I will be adding it permanently off camera because I did not realize it at first, but I quickly figured out that without supports, this will not carry the weight of a person. I thought it would just be strong enough just because it's made out of wood and good wood at that, but no. You can see I did permanently go ahead and attach that support in the back, and I will add one in the front as well. Time to flip this baby upright so we can see what we have going on. Make sure everything is level, looking good, and feels strong. I secured that support piece from the bottom, so now that this is upright, I want to make sure I secure it from the top too. So that's what I'm doing here with just a few screws. Looks like my client stopped by to check out progress on their new build. So now that my box and my base are done, I'm going to start working on the doors. These are just some of the scrap pieces from the plywood sheet that I got, and I just used it to make another rectangle. I have to use my full concentration anytime I'm trying to cut angles. I really kind of suck at doing that. Some reason when I cut two 45-degree angles, they don't line up to make 90 degrees. I don't know why, my math ain't mathing, but this is the best that I could do. So I'm going to go ahead and glue my pieces together to make my rectangles, and I'm going to do 2 of these, 1 for each door. Am I the only one with the special skill of making 45 plus 45 not equal 90 when I get on the saw? Leave me a comment and let me know if you do that too. I mean, I could use a 90-degree clamp, but since I don't have that, I have a staple gun, so that's what I'm using to hold my pieces together until the glue dries. You won't be able to see these, so I really don't care, but it's not the best practice, so do what I'm saying, not as I do. Get a 90-degree clamp. While I waited for that to dry, I went ahead and got some 1x2s, and I'm just going to be attaching those with some glue and my brad nailer. I want to make sure that there's plenty of ventilation, but I don't want the dogs to be able to get out of the back, obviously. So I'm just kind of making some slatted walls in the back, which will give a lot of airflow, but not leave it open to where they can escape. And although they did not escape through these, you will see what they did to them instead in a later clip in the video. So going back to the doors, I'm going to be using some glue and some square dowels. I forget exactly what size this is. I want to say it's 3/8 inch, but it's the one with the blue color on it, and it's the square. I'm going to be loading the dowel up with glue and then attaching it to my door frame with brad nails. And I'm using 3/4 inch brad nails, which are just long enough to get through the dowel and the plywood without poking through the other side of the plywood. I want to make sure the dogs don't get poked by any screws or nails. So now that my first dowel is secure, I'm loading up my glue for my second one, but I'm going to use an extra dowel in the middle to be my spacer. So it's important that you use a really straight one. I kind of ran into a little bit of a problem with this because the dowel that I was using as my spacer was not straight. I was able to work it out in the end, but just make sure that you use a piece that is absolutely straight for your spacer piece. If you are really good at making accurate cuts, you could probably cut your dowels before you put them on and glue them and nail them. But I just figured it'd be better for me to cut them all at once. So that's how I did mine. And for the areas that were right up against the frame, I just used a nail in the beginning, the middle, and the end of the dowel. But for the area where the middle is hollowed out, I just used 2 on the right side and 2 on the left side. Like I said before, when I get on the saw, 45 and 45 do not equal 90. So I did have a little bit of an area to putty, but that's what they make it for, right? For us to conceal our mistakes. So that's what I'm using it for on this one particular area. I thought I had footage of this part and I don't, but I used my Dremel and I just went straight down the edge to get all the excess pieces off of my dowels. And now I'm concealing the holes that I made with my brad nails with a little bit more wood filler. I had a piece of my plaidboard left, so I sanded that down to get the sawdust from it. I saw somewhere that if you combine sawdust and glue, you can use that as a filler that is stainable. So I went ahead and tried that for this project. I know that putty is not stainable, so I wanted to see if this would work. This is my first time trying it. It worked out okay. You could definitely still see it, but it did accept stain a little bit better than wood putty does. So if you try this, or if you have tried it before, leave me a comment and let me know how it worked for you. It was just slightly better than just using putty. Now that my doors are dried down, I'm ready to attach them. So I got these hinges and they came with a template, and I just used the template to attach the doors to the box. Like I said, I had a little spacing issue with my dowels and I hadn't worked it out at this point, but for the most part, this is how it ended up looking. So like I said, the dogs did not escape out of the cage through the slats in the back, but they did decide to use it as a chew toy, and they definitely chewed them up really bad. So I had to end up hammering these out and replacing all of them. Although they did damage these in the back, I'm just glad that no other damage has been done. They've been using this cage for a while it's been unfinished and in its various different stages. So I'm just glad they weren't able to destroy anything else. This part was not too hard to replace, so if they had to destroy anything, this was okay. They are out of that puppy stage where they chew on everything, so I think we're good to go now. I fixed my spacing issue and here's how the front looks now. Now it's time for some fine tuning. As you can see, the top edge looks a little bit rough. You've got the plaidboard and the dowel meeting together, so I'm going to cover that up with some edge banding. This stuff is great. It just has adhesive on one side. You just cut it to the length that you need it to be, and then you iron it on, and the heat from the iron activates the glue. So as you're ironing, it's getting stuck down. Really simple to use and great to cover any raw edges like this. As I mentioned, this is going to be in my foyer, so I want to make sure it looks as polished as possible. Here you can see one door that has been finished with edge banding, and then the one on the left is not done yet, so you can kind of see the contrast. The one on the right definitely looks more finished and polished. And here's how they looked once both of them are done. So now I'm going to break out my pre-stained wood conditioner. I'm going to be staining the top and the base, so I'm just going to be putting wood conditioner on both of those areas. You'll see me applying this to the top, but not to the bottom, and that's just because I had to flip this baby over in order to get the base, and you don't need to see all that. It's really simple. You just rub it in the direction of the wood grain. You let that sit for a few minutes, then you wipe off any excess, and then I'm going to go ahead and go in with my stain, and I'm going to do the top and the base, and just this little edge on the side. I thought that would be a nice touch. I don't think I mentioned this, but the color that I'm using is English chestnut. I've been using this in most of my flips that are for my house because this is what matches my hardwoods. I also did a video about my mantle restoration, which turned out really well, and you can check that out on my channel. I will also have that video linked down below in the description box. And I'm just applying my stain in the direction of the wood grain with a shop rag. I really prefer to use socks for this. The shop rag, I don't know, it wasn't sliding, it wasn't giving what it was supposed to give. So it was kind of making it splotchy a little bit. I got it to get on there evenly, but in the future, I would just go back to my method of using socks. It seems like every time I set the time aside to actually work on this cage, it would be pouring down raining outside, which is where I usually work. So I am standing inside, unfortunately. I am doing something that I never do, and that is using wall paint on a piece of furniture. This YouTube channel is not paying me the big bucks yet, so subscribe if you have not already and hit the thumbs up button so we can get what we need for these projects. But at this point in my life, I cannot justify buying any more products. I have so much paint in here, so much stain, and I really need to focus on using what I have. So that is what I'm doing. I did not want to buy any paint. Also, I'm not using primer, which I normally do. Normally, I tell y'all it's a crime not to prime. But for solid wood projects, you do not have to prime. I like to do it when I'm selling stuff to people, just as an extra measure that their stuff will have longevity. But for a project in my house where I know how to refinish furniture and I have the paint on hand and I know how to fix it, I figure it wasn't that big of a crime. So do as I say and not as I do. I always recommend buying high quality furniture paint, but in this case, I am using regular wall paint, so at least it'll match with everything else that I have going on, and it's saving me a little bit of money. But I'm going to digress to say that painting between these slats was absolute hell. And again, when I set this time aside, it was just pouring down raining, and it would not stop until I finished 3 hours of hand painting this. So painting with the sprayer would have just been so much easier, but I had to do this with the roller, with the small brush, with the medium-sized brush, any kind of way I could get in between the slats. That's what I did. So if you want to do a project like this and you have a paint sprayer, just wait till when you can spray it. I think I went through like 3 different brush sizes just trying to see what could get me in between all the slats the easiest. And then I found this big, really fluffy brush, and it was so fluffy that I was able to kind of push it in between the slats, and that really helped me out. So this was the winner. If you have to hand paint something like this, get a big, see how big this is? I think it's like a 4 or 5 inch brush, and make sure that it's really wispy. Otherwise, you're going to be painting all day long. Oh, and just in case you're wondering, the color that I'm using is Dark Secret by Bear. That's also the color that I painted the walls in my living room as well. I'm thinking everything would tie in really nicely together. While you watch my painting montage, I just want to plead with you all to support my channel. I want to grow my channel to 10,000 subscribers within the next year, and I cannot do that without your help. I'm doing everything I can do. I'm trying to stay consistent with posting. I've been paying a lot more attention to the quality of my videos. I know it's not the best, and we don't have everything high tech. We don't even have all the tools we need. Hell, we just do what we got to do to get what we got to get, but we do some beautiful flips on this channel. So if you know anybody who would be interested in my content, please share it with them. Subscribe to my channel. Leave me comments if you have not done so. Just say hi. You don't have to say anything too insightful. You don't have to critique. You don't have to leave a compliment. You can just say hi in the comment section, and that'll help me out. So please help me grow my channel. Share, comment, like, subscribe. Since this is much thicker than the paint I normally use, I thought 1 coat would be good, but you can see it's kind of splotchy, so I did end up doing 2 coats. Because I have the issue of the puppies chewing on this cage, I wasn't quite sure what to finish it with. I didn't want to use polyacrylic or anything that can be toxic to them if they do bite it and it ends up in their mouths. So I just decided to use this tongue oil. I've never used it over a painted project, never used it on a project that was stained, never used it on a project that was intended to stay outside. I know this is a great sealer for something that's outdoor, but it's also non-toxic and it's safe for dogs, so I figure I can try it on this project and just hope for the best. I read that it might take the paint off of the painted surfaces, so I was really scared to use this, but I didn't have that problem. It seemed to work just fine. I let it dry down for about 20 minutes and then I wiped off the excess, and it looks fine to me. So without further ado, here are some final finished images of the piece. Leave me a comment and let me know how you think this turned out. I'm really proud of it, and I think I did an amazing job considering all the things that I don't have. This just goes to show you that you can use what you do have and make beautiful art with it. This piece is both functional and beautiful, so I'm really proud of this piece. This piece has been a long time coming, and it's been in use in my house for about a year unfinished. So you might notice the age of the pups progressed a lot from the beginning of the video to the end of the video. And that is because they have been using it, they love it, I love it, so to me this is definitely a win. Not too sure what happened to the footage, but I did add some spar urethane on the floor to make it waterproof, and I put down some waterproof mats so if they have any accidents it won't get into the wood. There used to be 2 beds in here, but I decided to remove one because they like to get in the middle and cuddle at night, so I just gave them more space to do that comfortably. I did all my finishing images and then I realized I forgot to add the center support in the front, so as you can see I did go back and add it, and now this can support a person's weight. If you have the time, please select another one of my videos to watch from the choices on your screen or in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in my next video.